Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. On today's episode, we're asking the question, is parenting less, parenting better? It's prompted by an article I read this week by an educator who was commenting on something the Surgeon General said recently. And are you ready for this? In the same way that the Surgeon General in the past has affixed a warning label to smoking cigarettes, so that when you buy a pack of cigarettes, you're reminded those cigarettes are not good for you. The Surgeon General has now said that parenting is bad for your mental health. That's right. The Surgeon General is warning us that parenting can be problematic. But the Surgeon General is not telling us not to have kids. What he's trying to identify is that increasingly parenting is leading to an increase in anxiety among parents. He's actually arguing for more support systems being built to help parents navigate that anxiety. Let's leave that aside for a second. What was so interesting to me about this particular article, again, written by a longtime educator, is that she was making the case that actually parents are the cause of the anxiety, not the children. Her argument was pretty simple. She referred back to something that our culture has called helicopter parenting. The idea that as a parent, our job is to hover above our children, solving problems for them, removing obstacles for them, making sure that they are constantly safe and happy and cared for. And what this article was arguing is that that kind of parenting is actually the cause of the anxiety. That when you take on the burden of trying to make sure your child is safe and happy every second of the day, you are taking on a burden that you cannot actually fulfill. And as a consequence, you are left with the feeling of anxiety. What this educator argued is that we need to move from helicopter parenting to something called lighthouse parenting. And the metaphor is pretty simple. Lighthouses provide boundaries. They tell ships, you don't want to keep coming this direction or you will be shipwrecked. They provide encouragement and guidance, not this way, but that way. But at the end of the day, lighthouses don't steer the ship. They leave it to the ship captains to figure out the best way forward. And what this educator was saying from her years of experience is that what she thinks children and parents need more of is empowering parenting that provides moral guidance, boundaries, and encouragement, but lets the kids figure out the obstacles in front of them for themselves. This is interesting to me from two kind of Christian perspectives. The first is, I think this writer is absolutely right on the cause of anxiety. I reference this often on this podcast, but in Matthew 6, when Jesus does his incredible teaching on anxiety, he tells us that the root cause of worry is taking on concerns that we are not big enough to manage. He asks this question, which of you by worrying can add a single day to your lives? He's making the point that you're worried about the future, but you can't possibly change or control the future. The cause of anxiety is not uncertainty. It's the feeling that we need to be certain about things that only God can be certain about. As parents, we have to realize that ultimately our children's stories are first up to God, and even after God, up to our children, and only then us. The older they get and the more life throws at them, we cannot ensure that their lives will be free of harm, free of difficulty, free of obstacles. We're not capable of that. We can't even do that in our own lives, let alone commit to doing it for our kids. But the second thing this article reminded me of is that as Christian parents, we have to remember that our goal is to raise children who become adults who are able to follow Jesus. This means that we have to understand that the task of parenting is progressively a task of empowerment. We're not raising children who will live with us forever. We're not raising children who will be dependent on us forever. Over time, we need to raise children who no longer need to hold our hands. And even when they go looking for a hand to hold, it's the hand of Jesus that they're reaching out for, not ours. That means we have to understand that a major tool at our disposal is saying to our kids, wow, that sounds like a really tough situation. What's your plan? to deal with it? How are you going to have that conversation with the teacher? How are you going to navigate that broken relationship with your friend? We're there for guidance. We're there for encouragement. We're there for boundaries, but we cannot steer the ship for them. As Christians, let's heed this warning. Helicopter parenting does not lead to fully formed disciples. Lighthouse parenting is a much better way forward. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. While you're here, we'd love to ask you to hit subscribe or to like so you get future content. If you listen to the audio version too, make sure you leave a review and a comment. That really helps. Consider sharing it on social media and helping us get the word out. And hey, while you're here, check out all the other content that Christ Community Chapel is putting out, including the videos that are around me right now.